So let's not forget about that third kind. We talked about reflected, we talked about stored or persistent,
Yep.
but you also mentioned DOM-based.
DOM-based.
Remind me what DOM stands for?
DOM is the document object model.
Okay.
So if you've ever right-clicked and inspected your websites, I'll show you. If you ever do this, where you right-click and you say inspect, and then you see this stuff, there's your DOM. Right? This over here, this is the DOM. This is the code that's running the page and making all the things go on there, right? So that's why I like to call this client-based, I think is a better term for this, because that makes sense. The web browser is the client for me, right? I'm the client. The server that I'm grabbing websites from and web pages from is the server, right? So client-based. This is the client through the browser. What's in the browser? What does the browser see and run? So this all happens within that context, within the context of the browser only. It doesn't actually have to hit the server at all. It doesn't actually. It doesn't. This does not get processed by the server. This happens internally on the client and never goes to the server. Where all the reflected and are stored, those are all server-based, right? That reflected stuff, I give a JavaScript code. The server receives that request, processes it, and then spits that back out to you. Right? That's not what we want. And so it's coming from the server itself. Whereas with DOM-based or client-based, this is all actually happening. This is what they use terms like sources and sinks. The source is going to be from like a URL or maybe a link that's in the page that you're looking at. All I have to do is change what goes on in the source to be the JavaScript I want it to run. And then the sinks are where it actually gets executed. So if I put in the return code like an eval statement or an inner HTML or a document.write. So I'd have to look through here for things like, I come in here and do a search for document.writes. I don't have any in this one, but that would be a good one. I can also search for eval like that. I actually do have an eval, but it just says eval here. It's not, it's just part of it. So, I thought, we do have another one. Let's hit enter again. Yeah, it's just the term eval is there. It's not an actual eval statement. But if an eval statement was there, I might very well have a DOM-based cross-site scripting attack. I would just go in and make that change or grab that piece, and then I can create a link based off of that, which would then be executed by anybody that clicked the link.
Okay.
Right? So there you go, DOM-based.
Now, as you've been talking about these, you've kind of mentioned like, okay, so we see this, we see that, input is reflected, whatever. We might have a place for cross-site scripting vulnerability here.
Correct.
You keep using that terminology. How do we know if there's a place? How do we test for that?
How do we see if the proof is in the pudding kind of thing? Is there a cross-site scripting attack? Typically what we do is we throw some JavaScript at it and we see if it executes. This is the way to test for these things. Now, honestly, you could use any JavaScript you want, but most people use the same types of attacks. And there's like lists of them. You can go on GitHub and look for just laundry lists. Just Google for cross-site script test, cross-site scripting test strings. And definitely do it in GitHub because you're just going to find massive amounts of those laying around. You can just pop into somewhere like here, Google or like XSS lists, right? Payloads, that's the word I'm looking for, payloads. But here's one right here, right? And guess what? It's in GitHub. Look down here. Oh, look, there's a bunch of cross-site script. There's a bunch of cross-sites, right? And you can feed that through your fuzzing tool of choice and let it do its magic, right? Burp Suite, you can use Zap, you can use Fuff, whatever you like. Anything that can do this kind of thing, where it's just you give it an input, tell it, hey, this is where I want you to fuzz, and run through this list until you find stuff that works. So that's how you can test for it. I'll show you how it normally works out. Let's go back to the BWAP. Close this inspector tools here. And we have this cross-site. So let's do a reflected, and this will work for all of them, right? So I'll just show you the one place in which you can do it. Instead of putting my first name, let's put some JavaScript. So we'll open our script tag, script, like that. And I'll do an alert box. And this is very common for testing for cross-site scripting. I will tell it to give us some text like pwned. What is it? ED? Yeah, pwned. Bam, bam, bam. I love it. Nailed it. Close it out. and then close my cross-site scripting or my script tag. Bam. And then I hit last name, fill it in, whatever, lean on the keyboard. I'm going to roll out here, hit go. You'll notice I have a pop-up box.
Oh.
Guess why the pop-up box occurred? This is what we call an alert box. And if you remember, the JavaScript I ran was run an alert box.
Yeah.
That was the code that I gave it. It processed it as code and not as text. And therefore, I'm pwned. Fun.
Huh.
Right? Take the same attack, find something like a blog, comment section, whatever. Make that your blog post. Maybe make that the username. You got to remember, I just put it in the first name. It might work for both fields. Let's test. Right? So I'll say my first name, Daniel, and my last name is script alert. We'll just say XSS. Script. Throw that, hit go. Oh, look, both of the fields are vulnerable to cross-site scripting attacks. So don't, anywhere you have an input where you are allowed to feed the machine, you want to feed it something deadly. You want to feed it cross-site scripting and see, does that work?
So a little trial and error kind
of. Little trial and error definitely involved in this. That's why we like automation for these types of things. It just decreases the amount of time it would take to test and find and test for cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. But there you go. I don't think I have one for DOM-based. I don't think the BWAP has a DOM-based one itself, but not at least not off the top of my head.
Okay.
But that's how you test for it.
So that's cross-site scripting. We also mentioned at the beginning of the episode cross-site request forgery. Now, I think we've talked about server-side request forgery. We've mentioned it previously. So is this similar to that?
No.
No.
It's not.
Okay, great.
Right? Yeah, it's a completely different thing. And I got to love how they do have similar names and acronyms. That's not at all confusing for anyone, I'm sure.
No.
Right? So cross-site request forgeries are very interesting. Basically what it does is it abuses a trust relationship that has been established between your target and the web application in question, right? So we kind of talked about this a little bit. If you've ever logged into something, right, and you have that open on a browser tab, you're fiddling around with it, think of like social media things that you don't typically log out of. Okay, cool. I got that open. I'm going to open another browser tab, and I got to go search for a recipe for tonight because we're doing this, and someone special's coming over, and we got to make something nice. Oh, also need to do a little bit of something else. You got maybe 400 or 500 tabs open because I think most people do, right? But you never logged out of the first thing, that's social media. Okay. You have a trust relationship with that. You logged in, they gave you a session token, and the session token doesn't expire for, I don't know, a year. They're not logging you out. This is why when you log into your bank, because of CSRF, this is why when you log into your bank and you don't do anything for like 5 minutes, it logs you out. Right? I know, annoying, right? But it's to protect you from this type of attack. So how does this work? You have that trust relationship. I've logged in. I've received a session token. We're good. I want to abuse that as an attacker. I want to say, okay, I'm gonna get a login myself to that place, and I want to start scouring around looking for things like links that do changes. Maybe like a password change. Maybe like a money transfer. Who knows? Whatever. Something that does something, and it does it in the URL. All that lovely data is there in the URL. At least that's one of the best ways to do this, right? So then I can take that URL, and if I find something like a cross-site scripting attack, I can utilize a cross-site scripting attack to make you click on the link, which makes a change. And since you are never not logged in, it trusts that you wanted to make that change and does it. But it's something I now know the values of, right? So if it's a password change, you're logged in, you go to the blog post or comment section of whatever where my cross-site scripting attack lives, and you get hit, you've clicked the link, and that tab goes, oh, you want to change your password to, I should have better security. I don't run JavaScript. Yeah. So
actually, probably a good password.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And so it does it because it trusts what you're saying to be true, right? So kind of set this up a little bit so that we can play around with doing these things. We do need to have that URL. That is a major portion of this, right? So we have to be logged in. So I'm going to play the victim as well as the attacker, okay? So we go into the computer here. You'll notice I have the BWAP up here. This is not here. This is here. I know, confusing, right? But I am logged in right now as Brad Pitt.
Wow, identity theft.
I know. It's hard being me. And yet in some ways it's easy as well. But over here, you'll notice I'm logged in as B, right? So we both have a trust relationship with the BWAP site.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah. I've logged in. I've received a token.
Yeah.
I'm good to go. Hopefully it's not expired yet. The BWAP actually does expire its tokens fairly quickly. I can check. Let's go to credits. Yeah, cool. So I can now go back to bugs. So I still have this trust relationship built with this site. Okay, that's good. That's step one. Someone has to have a trust relationship built. Now, if we come back here and we start looking for CSRF, oh goodness gracious, this is going to be fun. I think it's down for them because they're using an old, this was developed back when the OWASP top 10 was a little bit different looking. I think it's an 8.
Do they have an order of like severity?
Yeah, they are. It was the OWASP top 10.
So it was in the order of what it was at the time.
Yes, okay. Correct. Which is now changed, but
right.
No problem. So there are some CSRF attacks in A8. There they are, right? We can do something like change password, change the secret, transfer amount. So let's go with that one. Like nothing like a good.
That looks fun.
Nothing like good cybercrime, right?
Yeah.
That's everybody to have a good time with. I'll hit hack. And I can see that in here we have this transfer amount. The amount that we currently have is 1,000 euros because this was developed in the European Union, the EU. It gives me the account number to transfer and the amount to transfer. I'm going to change this to 1. I'm going to hit transfer. I now see I have 999 euros because I transferred 1 euro to this account number. Cool. Well, if I make, let's just say for the sake of an argument that this is a banking site, I have now set this to my bank account, or this is my bank account. Cool. Let's go and look at the URL. So there's the accounts. There's the amounts, right? And there's the action transfer. I'm going to grab all this business, right? Click, copy. Okay. Now, from here, all I need to do is actually use a stored cross-site scripting attack, and then anybody that goes to that site, it will, and they have a trust relationship with that bank, they will transfer that amount of money into that account.
So you're going to use a stored cross-site scripting account. So we're seeing.
I think the way this works is transferring it from that account, not to it. So we should see the amount of euros decrease every time we visit that page.
But we're seeing a crossover here between cross-site scripting and cross-site request.
This is where they marry together and work very well. Now, I could just put that link in a phishing email very easily. And if you click the link and you have that trust relationship built, you are done, right? That is just how that goes. But stored cross-site scripting really works well with this.
Okay.
Right? So let's do that. So I know they also have stored cross-site scripting attacks. So let's go find one. Let's see here. Nope, not that one. Nice try there, though, buddy. Of course, I'm zoomed in like a crazy person. Look for, there's reflected, and then, whoa, stored. Stored will go with a blog. I hit hack, and here we have cross-site scripting stored. Now you have all these different options here, but hey, we got to put this stuff in here, right? So I'm going to throw my cross-site scripting attack in here. So I need to open my script tags, script, and then I will do, this is a little bit different, not popping up an alert box at this point. I want it to be a little more stealthy. So I'm going to tell it, hey, grab an image. I want to do an image. What do you want the image to be? Absolutely nothing. I want it to be a link. Grab the image from somewhere else on the internet.
Okay.
Right? Because you can do this. It's really cool. You don't have to store all the images on your server. You can just tell JavaScript, hey, here's a link to the image I want you to show. Grab the link from here. So that's what we're going to do, right? Guess what? It's not really an image. It's actually this link. Get the idea?
Okay.
Right? So every time you go to this page, it will try to pull the image from that link.
Oh, okay.
Which is to transfer money.
Gotcha.
Hopefully you're following the bouncing ball here, right? So we're going to do new image. And then you got to do, open and close. And then src equals, C equals, and then whatever the actual link is, which is what we have. I think you got to enclose it in quotes. We control V that. There it is. And then close it. And then close your script tabs. Script. Bam. Now, once we click this and hit submit, I'm just checking my
checking your work.
I'm gonna check all my work here. That all looks right. I can even change the amounts here from 1. Let's make it something more like 100. Right? Let's really steal. Right? And then hit submit. Great. Your entry was added to the blog. Cool. Now, let's go over back here to Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt wants to go check his bank accounts. So this is down in A8, which there it goes. Transfer amounts. He hits that. He says, yes, go to my webpage here. And he has 1,000 euros, right? But if he goes to the cross-site scripting stored blog, hack, he should see, we want to see show all, submit. I don't want to add, I just want to show all. Submit. You notice there's one entry here, but
it looks blank.
Looks blank as all can be. Let's go back and check the bank account. Transfer amounts, hack. Oh. What is happening here? Where's my money?
And it did it twice because you ran it twice.
It did it twice because I ran it twice, right? So it's like, $100 here, $100 there. I love money.
Wow.
And that's the danger of both cross-site scripting and CSRF attacks. How they can work together. This kind of thing happens actually a lot.
All that power in the wrong hands.
There you go. But that's it. That's it.
Okay. So there you go. We got to take a look at cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, how those two can be married in matrimony, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
An unholy matrimony.
Again, reminder. Powers for good.
Yeah.
Don't go steal money.
Don't do that.
Stealing's wrong. Stealing's bad. You're not Robin Hood. So there you go. Thank you for walking us through this. And thank you, as always, for joining us. We'll see you next time.